Hello everybody. Welcome back, or welcome if you are new. We have got a full day in the kitchen. Let's jump right on in. I'm going to get this batch going in my bread machine. I'm using my milk and honey loaf recipe. I'm going to do a loaf of bread and then half bagels with this. Now, I get questions and comments all the time about how can I make bread without a bread machine. I wish I could make this, but I can't because I don't have a bread machine. I promise you don't need a bread machine to make bread. And today I'm going to show you. So this batch, like I said, is going to be for my loaf bread and for bagels for this week. And then I'm going to do another batch in my KitchenAid, and I'm going to show y'all how to do that. And I'm going to make that into rolls. However you shape it is totally up to you. So I'm just going to show you how to, mix it together in the KitchenAid. And even if you don't have a KitchenAid or a stand mixer or anything, you can easily use your hands and just a bowl. Use whatever you got, but making homemade bread is so easy, and you don't have to have appliances to make it. Like a bread machine or a KitchenAid. You can easily just use a bowl and your hands. As long as you have a loaf pan or, whatever you're wanting to make. Of course, that's important. But making homemade bread is so easy, you guys. So don't forget, I will have my milk and honey loaf recipe linked down below. But I'm going to go ahead and get this going, and then we'll start the next batch. We're bringing out my tried and true rusty dusty KitchenAid here. Y'all, I have had this since high school. It has been around for a long time. It's still kicking though, so we're just gonna hang in there. So to my bowl, I added in my bloomed yeast, which I just, heated up my milk and water, added some sugar in there, added my yeast, and just let it sit on the counter for about 5 or so minutes to let it bloom. I use active dry yeast, so I always activate my yeast before I add it into any recipes. And then I'm going to add in my honey, add in the butter. I'm going to add in some of the flour. I don't add all of it. I add some of it. And then I also go ahead and add my salt. And then with your dough hook, you're going to, slowly mix it, and it's all going to come together. And then I slowly keep adding the remainder of the flour in. Now for this one, I chose to do a little bit of wheat flour as well. That is totally up to you. I think I did about 2 cups of wheat flour, and then I did the rest all-purpose, unbleached is what I use. So, you can play around. You can do all the same flour. That's totally up to you. Sometimes I do the one that I did in the bread machine, I did just all purpose, but this one I wanted to do a little bit of wheat. So I'm just getting it going. As you can see, it's just going to start kneading and mixing all together, just like in the bread machine. And then I'm just going to start adding the rest of that flour. Keep it moving. It's going to start, getting thick. The dough's going to come together. It's going to start coming off of the bowl. You don't want it to be sticky where it just sticks to the bowl. As it keeps kneading and mixing and doing its thing, once it starts coming off of the bowl and it forms a ball on that dough hook, give it about 5, 7, 10-ish minutes of that kneading. Keep it going. Don't stop it. It needs to knead for, that time period. And then you're done. You'll cover it with a towel, let it double in size on your counter. This for me in my kitchen. Of course, it's just going to depend on the temperature of your kitchen. Don't forget that. But for me, it took a little over an hour for it to double in size and to be nice and, good for me. So I'm just going to continue letting this go. But I really hope that this helps. I have been meaning to do this, and I have just got caught up in the busy life and honestly the convenience of using that dang bread machine. I'm going to be honest. That is what it is. I am spoiled to it. I love it. I have 2 of them. I can't help it. But I had so many comments and questions. I, wanted to try to prioritize doing this for you guys. That way y'all can see it. It is so easy. And you don't even need a KitchenAid. You can easily just do this by, by hand. Mix it in a bowl using your hands and then knead it, and then let it sit and double in size. And then after it doubles in size, that is when you go to shape it, and then you'll cover it and let it sit for another 30 to 40 minutes. It's literally just the, it's the same concept that I've been sharing, but just instead of using that lovely bread machine, just either use your hands or use a KitchenAid or, stand mixer, whatever you have on hand. But as you can see, it's starting to get nice and thick, so we're just going to keep that going. It's coming up off of that bowl, as you can see there. And you're just going to keep kneading it for, like I said, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. I just kind of, keep an eye on it. For me, it's about the feel, and that is too something else that, as you keep practicing and, making more breads, you'll get used to, the different things that you should look for and how it should feel a certain way. And, all that I feel like comes with time. Baking is so much fun. Baking breads is so much fun. This is something that I absolutely loved doing in culinary school, and it's so great that I have found that love again because I did really enjoy it. So here's what it looks like. As you can see, it is kind of sticky, but it is not sticking to my fingers, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to cover it with a towel, and we're just going to let it sit and double in size. While the bread is doing its thing on the counter and the bread machine, I'm going to go ahead and work on some banana bread. As you can see, we've got some bananas that need to be used up. So I'm going to make a batch of my favorite banana bread. I'll make sure to have the recipe linked down below for you guys. I have been using this recipe recently, and I have already wrote it down in my book because it is one of my favorites. And I've been making banana bread for years, y'all, but this recipe is just so good right now. While the banana bread is in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and start on a batch of homemade tortillas. I have been using this recipe for several months, and it is definitely a favorite. And every time I make these, they get better and better every time with practice, which is so great. So I just put the water and that stick of butter in the microwave to melt that butter down. And then into my bowl, I'm adding in flour, baking powder, and some salt. And then I'm just going to slowly add that melted butter and water into this flour mixture, and then just keep, kneading it until it forms a dough. And then we will sit it on the counter covered for about 15 to 20 minutes. I always just go by the feel of it. I did end up having to add a little bit more flour. I just add a little bit at a time until the dough comes together and it forms a good dough ball. We are going to move on to a easy dessert. We're going to make some cheesecake brownies. Y'all, these are so good if you have never tried these. So I did not measure on the cheesecake portion of this, so I do apologize, but I've got a block of softened cream cheese there, and I'm just beating it to make, get it all whipped together. And then I ended up adding about 1/4 of a cup of sugar. I used just regular cane sugar. You can use powdered sugar too if you want to. Either one I feel like works good. I've used both. And then I'm going to add in 1 egg, and I just beat that until it all, whips together. It's nice and fluffy, and then I'm going to set that to the side. Now, y'all already know, if you're not new here, I keep brownie mixes in jars in my pantry to make it super convenient for me to just whip out a brownie mix and make brownies whenever I want to. So I pulled one of those out. So we're just going to mix that brownie mix up according to the directions. I'll have it linked down below, and I'll also have a video linked down below where I made those brownie mixes if you are interested, if you're new here, in case you've not seen that. But I love keeping brownie mixes in my pantry. It's so much easier, and it's all right there. It's literally just like having a box of brownies, but you know what's in it, and you made it yourself, and you can keep it in your pantry. So I'm just going to mix this together according to the directions, and then we will get everything combined. I have got a 8x8 greased, I call it a casserole dish. That's what I call this. You can use glass or metal, whatever you want or have on hand. I'm going to take that brownie mixture and get it as even as I can on the bottom first. And then we're going to top it with our cheesecake mixture. And I like to swirl it with a knife, but I get in there and swirl it, like move it, y'all. Like, I don't do just the little lines with a knife. I will kind of pick it up and swirl it. And then I did end up topping this with some chocolate chips before adding it into the oven. We had some family over to help us eat these, and y'all, they are gone. They were a hit. Everybody loved these. I love, keeping those brownie mixes on hand. It was, so easy for me just to make this. And yeah, I always keep the ingredients on hand, just to make brownies. But when you have it in a jar and you just have to dump it with the rest of the ingredients, it just makes life so much easier. So if you're someone that likes to have those brownie mixes or cake mixes or, muffin mixes, any of those things, if you like to keep those on hand, but you're wanting to switch to more, from scratch, definitely look into making your own mixes like that, because they are so cheap and really easy and nice to have on hand. So I'm just going to top this with some chocolate chips, and then I'm going to get it in the oven. I think I cooked these at 350, and I just cooked them. I'm bad about times. I just cook it until they're cooked through. I just, had a little chopstick or a toothpick and just make sure it comes out clean. While those are in the oven, I'm going to work on the tortillas again so they have sat for a little bit. So now I'm going to take and divide this dough into 12 balls. I'm just going to add those balls back into that bowl, and then I'm going to cover them back up and let them sit for another 20 to 30 minutes. That was one of the suggestions that y'all had mentioned the last time I had made these, to let them sit a little bit longer. So that second time, after dividing the dough up and making the balls, I let it sit for it probably ended up being about 30 minutes, honestly, because I, just had a lot of stuff going on. But they seem to do pretty good this time. The dough is ready from the bread machine, so I'm going to take and divide this up into two. I'm going to do half as a little loaf of bread, and then I'm going to do the rest as bagels. I really like to do this. For us, this is perfect for our family size, having the start of the week with the loaf of bread and then having 6 bagels for us. It seems to work out pretty good for our family size. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this going. Y'all have seen me make bagels 1,000 times. Y'all have seen me make bread 1,000 times. If you want a more detailed video, I will try to find one and have it linked down below. I've got my water boiling for my bagels, so I'm going to go ahead and add in my baking soda and then just go ahead and get those dropped. I have had questions about why you bathe your bagels before you bake them. And that is what gives them the crust. So if I just took and made the bagels and baked them, it would come out just like a regular roll or, like the loaf of bread. But when you dunk them in this mixture, now you don't have to use baking soda either. I've seen people use sugar. I've seen people use honey, or the baking soda. I think it just play around with it and figure out what you or your family likes best. I have always just done baking soda. We like it. So I have not changed it. I've not played around with it. But that is what gives those bagels that texture and that chewiness. So like I said, if you don't boil them, you can still do that, but it's just not going to have that same texture. It's going to be more like, like a roll or, like the bread. That's the only way I can describe it for you guys. So I hope that helps. Our dough is done that we mixed together in the KitchenAid, so we're going to go ahead and get this shaped. Here is what it looks like. Definitely doubled up. It looks so good. So we're going to punch it down and then just get it shaped. Now at this point, if this was you doing it, you shape it however you want to shape it. If you want bagels, bread, rolls, cinnamon rolls, whatever you want, you would go ahead and just shape it however you want to. For me, I'm doing some rolls, so I'm just going to take and divide this up like I normally would and then get these balled up, and then I will cover them and let them double again. So that's what you would do. After you shape it however you want it shaped, cover it with a towel or put it on whatever, either you're baking it in or on a baking pan or whatever you're going to actually be baking it in or on, because once you do that final rise, you don't want to touch it because they will deflate and then you'll just have flat bread. So at this point, after you shape it, put it in whatever you're going to be baking it on, cover it with a towel, and let it sit again for another 30 or more minutes. It's just going to depend on how warm your kitchen is. And you want them to double again. And then after that, then you will bake them. So see how easy that was? So easy. I really hope that it helped me just, showing you how easy it is to do in a KitchenAid, like I said, or even by hand. If you don't have a stand mixer, that is totally fine. I'm surprised that mine is still kicking, honestly, and it was sounding pretty rough when I was mixing up this bread, but it has been around for a long time, my poor KitchenAid. I've got all the rolls shaped, so now I'm just going to cover them up with a towel and let them do their final rise. While that's going, I also pulled the bagels out. They were done, and then I'm going to go ahead and get this loaf of bread in the oven and let it bake up. It is finished as well. It has been proofing on the counter. And then while that's in the oven, I'm going to finish up my tortillas. Now, another suggestion that you guys had in the last time I shared these was to not put any flour down on my counter when I'm rolling them out. So I did that this time, and I think it worked good. I still feel like I'm having a hard time just getting them thin. I don't know if I'm just, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting them as thin as I can. But I may end up investing in a tortilla press because this is something I do like making, and it's so easy and really cheap in my opinion. Like, I always have everything here for it. I've got to figure out how to get them thinner, but these are really good. We do really like these. You know, we use tortillas a lot throughout the week for, you know, different things, breakfast, lunches, you know, even, you know, suppers sometimes if we do tacos or, you know, quesadillas or wraps, you know, like anything. Like, we use a lot of tortillas, and so they're really fun to make, and I really don't think, like, to me, they're really easy. I just have to figure out, you know, I have to keep practicing and getting the hang of it. That's just part of it, right? I just cooked my tortillas on my griddle. It's at 400. I didn't put anything on it. It's just dry. Here is what they look like. I still need to keep practicing, but I swear they get better every time I make them. I'm going to go ahead and get the rolls in the oven. They are done proofing, so I'm going to get those in. Now, these rolls, I want to cook them all the way through, but I'm not going to brown them because I'm going to heat them up tomorrow before we eat, and I'll add some butter to them, so I will brown them the next day. Here is everything. We got our bagels, the brownies, our tortillas, got banana bread, rolls, regular loaf of bread. We are set to start a new week. I really hope y'all enjoyed today's video. This is so much fun. This is definitely a labor of love, but I absolutely love it. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.